Intuiface and almost the only woman in the room. So this session was designed for everyone, including the audience, to exchange freely your ideas on how to grow the community and how to foster a collective and supportive culture within the Intuiface community. Can anyone in the audience guess how many members we have today in the community forum? Any guess? It's huge. No guess. Okay, so we have 1,300 members as of today, and 100 of them are active users, meaning they either start or react to discussions at least one time within 20 days time period. And any of you are active members? All of you, okay. So it's quite a considerable number of people engaged in the user community, but at the same time, when you consider the percentage, it's less than 10%, it's not much, so we have room for improvement. So today on the stage, we've invited some of the most visible and active members of the user community. I'm sure many of us are excited to see them in person finally. Please welcome Paolo Tosoloni. Mauricio Centeno. Alright, so let's get started with a simple question for all of you. How did you started from not knowing of Intuiface obviously at all, and then you're sitting on the stage, how did that happen?
I'll start because I have a microphone. I learned about Intuiface 5 years ago from an obscure answer on a blog when I was looking for a tool that would fit my creativity. I'm not a developer, I'm not a designer, but I like to create interactions. And I was looking for something online that was for non-coders, and I guess somebody in your marketing department did a great job answering in the blog post that I followed, and it changed my life. So that's I think that was it. So that was my story.
My story is a little bit different from Paolo's. I joined the company Promoters 5.5 years ago now. I literally just come out of education, so I didn't really know anything about touchscreens at all. And then we came across Intuiface. We thought, give this a shot. Previously using Ventus, I don't know if you guys have used that before, but that's more for like using broadcasting systems. So then we got involved with Intuiface, and it really intrigued us, from my level as well, on how touchscreens can be used in many different ways and in many different verticals. But the tool for Intuiface itself, it's amazing. For someone like myself and many young people that are using Intuiface, I think it's a valuable experience and knowledge base to use, to I suppose in a way to develop and move on. From your company. What's this, I guess. But going on with your experience, to move on to interactive experiences, I suppose. But yeah, that's basically how I got across Intuiface. Obviously, Chris and Mike, the guys I work for, and they're just thrown in the deep end, and I just want to get towards them using Intuiface, basically. But yeah, that's my story.
Actually, Intuiface came to us because we work in a project for a major movie theater in Mexico. So we were planning a project like 6 months ago. We have an extra company who was developing for us this project, and suddenly, like 3 or 4 weeks earlier to deliver, they made like the whole interface, but we weren't able to connect to the movie ASP system, so we can get the movies, the functions, the videos, everything. So we got a tough decision that what are we going to do? We're very close to make it happen, and we just can't connect to the web services. So finally, one of the guys in our team, hey, look, this software seems to be the solution. So instantly I downloaded it, and for the free version. Within hours, we were able to connect to the SAP, get the trailers, get the movies, everything. So
in hours you fell in love.
in hours, it was a short story long, and in 2 weeks, we had the full solution running in the cinema. And other thing that we like is when we get next to the implementation, there were some bugs in Intuiface in that area. We're talking about version 4. And we did, hey, it's not working. It's supposed that it's fully working, but it's not working. So one of the things we like from the guys in the support team, it's they don't hide that something is going wrong. As other companies that were experienced say, hey, look at your computer, your CPO, your Windows license, on start, install. They're just making you lose your time. But they say, hey, let us see what's going on. And suddenly, next day, they send us a mail, hey, there's a new version of the player, please install it in all your players, and pretty much that's a problem. And yeah, they fix it. Then we saw like a very funny thing in the release version. It says, because of some trouble with some users, we fixed this kind of bugs. That was very important for us, because you know that there is someone behind you trying to fix something, and you can be sure it's going to be fixed.
I think like many of you here, we all fell into Jeff's sales funnel. So I know that was a part of our story as well, but my background is in digital signage. I've been doing digital signage, non-touch, passive display networks for over 13 years. And we knew interactive was always the next step, even since the very beginning. We had gotten into interactive displays on our own, trying to do web development. And if maybe a lot of you are here knowing how much a pain in the ass that is. Can we say ass on stage?
No, we can't.
You're supposed to bleep that out. And so at that time, we had a need to move on. And I had been researching software solutions. We all know what this is like. Personally, I go through a big weighted scale, sign up for all the demos and blah, blah, blah. Honest to God, Intuiface was the last on our list. And I almost gave up. But it was one of Jeff's ads, I think, that popped up in some Google ad somewhere. And I was like, fine. And like Paolo, it changed our life. We have now developed a whole business model around Intuiface. We promote it heavily. I was always very big into the forums for all the digital signage, so obviously I jumped right in and just started probably hammering the crap out of the community forums. And because I really liked it, and I wanted to see it grow, I wanted it to do what I wanted to do, but also to see them grow as a company as well. And that's where we came from, I guess.
Can I add something? So, I want to give kudos to the whole Intuiface team for their knowledge base. This is how, at least, I learned. I learned through going on Sundays during the weekends, just by going through your YouTube videos, going through your demos online, and then just following them. So, and then based on by this self-teaching, the tool, I built a business around it. So this is remarkable about how important it is for you to put all this effort that you have done for us to benefit from it, and then it comes back to you. So, congratulations for all the effort you have done.
Just to be clear, we didn't pay them to say all this nice things. Thank you. So the second question. When we participate in the community, we all have different goals and ways of engaging with the others. For example, some like to share ideas, some like to make suggestions for product improvements, some like to help people with their questions, and some like to show off their expertise. In your case, how do you like to participate, and why is your involvement in the community valuable to you?
Let me start. So in our agency, we do Intuiface, we do also other things, virtual reality, virtual tours. So we are, I think of us more of a research lab with an opportunity to sell our ideas. So to me, having a community is valuable in multiple ways. I feel I want to share back what because I got so much from the internet, so much from other people, you know. You guys share all the time. So I learned from you, and then when it's my turn, I don't want to keep it for myself. And then there are some limits sometimes, because some customers, they don't want us to share the final product, right? We are constrained by not sharing the code or anything. However, if we can create a video or a screenshot, we would love to at least tell how, you know, what we have done, and maybe some tricks that help us getting there faster. So to me, it's a combination of things. And plus, it also helps our reputation. So it's a giving back, and also it helps creating this reputation that you know, you're an expert.
How can I call that? Basically, what I think we participate in the community is that, like Paolo, you know, we like giving our ideas, our opinions into the user community. So, you know, these guys can pick it up, and you know, maybe there's something that we, you know, for example, there's a problem we have, and we ask help either the support guy physically, or we just throw the idea out there. So I think participating for myself and putting things out in the community is really like showing our reputation, showing what we can do. But then again, getting, you know, valued knowledge from other people that may have problems and things that we haven't, you know, done before. So Paolo posted recently about the machine learning side of things, and that was a really eye-opener for me. So that then started the conversation with the company. And then, and then obviously when we looked at other options, you know, Google got Dialogflow, which we're looking into at the moment. Yeah, it's just come from that, to be honest. That's my reason for participating in the community.
For us, it's been like a kind of a selfish thing, because there's a lot of information that we can start earning. Sometimes you get like blind in a project, working for days or weeks or whatever, and you just seems that there's no other solution, and you're working on something, and the result isn't good enough. So in our case, when we get into the community, trying to read what somebody else is asking, and you realize that, hey, I did this thing really simple. There was, for me, it was not such a challenge, and you post it. But in the other hand, when you're blocked and you don't see how you can get things done, you just press what's new, and there's a guy that, hey, you make this really easy, simple solution that resolves a problem for weeks, and working in a different angle of the problem. But for us, I think that's what the most valuable thing. We're working in the same platform, and you get different points of vision from guys all over the world to solve problems. That's great.
Yeah, that's what we're looking for in the community.
I'd say most of the posts that we put out there, we could do a better job of showcasing some of what we do. I think we should, we'll probably work on that a little bit more. But a lot of the stuff I like to post about are helping others. When someone does post a question, they're trying to figure something out, whether it's a new user. They do need someone who's been using the software for a while, and I think that's really important in a community, is to have fostering a veterans helping other people kind of come up into becoming veterans themselves. And I personally love to solve the problems. I like to see the different ways people use them, ways that will never use them, use the software itself, and just by, one learns most by teaching others, so by helping others, I get better insight into my own business just by seeing the way it's used across different industries. And Intuiface is extremely open, but it is limited, obviously, because it's a software program. And ones and zeros do only what you tell them to do, and creativity loves restraint. So you You need people to tell you 100 ways to use a red brick, which is actually an interview question that we have. So you need to take the mundane and you need to think of how many different ways you can twist this particular function to use it to your advantage. And beyond just making new features, I think people need to see what power they already have. Experts can help you with that.
So obviously you've been witnessing the, I'd say, life of Intuiface Community more closely than anyone. What do you think, based on your experience, how do you think we can encourage the other members of the community to be more engaged and work together to make, create a supportive community?
So to me, there are probably three ingredients. One is, the first one is you need to get more people in the community. So that you probably have to be aware that the community exists and you want them to be there. The second is probably rewarding somehow the people who are active in the community because they're putting their time, they're putting an effort. What can you give them? It could be just visibility, it could be something that it makes them feel good about the effort. And the third one, I think, is probably making the platform as frictionless as possible, which to me is important because when I am on Facebook, it's super easy for me to just post something. It's just a drag and drop, doing it, and I'm there. Plus, Facebook reminds me every moment that I should be on Facebook constantly, whereas on your current platform, I go there mostly when I receive a notification from you that is a weekly, here's what's new. So I'm living in Outlook, I'm living in Facebook, in Intuiface, but I don't tend to live in the community. So actually, I would like to do a poll. How many of you would like to have the community on Facebook as opposed on this proprietary platform? I'm just curious. Okay, so not many. Okay, good. And I'm just seeing some success from other communities where they had their own platform. When they switched to Facebook, people just started participating more because it was easier. It was just there, and to me, it is pretty important.
Yeah. So I think similar to what Paolo said, the growth of the community is not to be shy, not to be scared to post something. Just because you don't know or don't know how to do something and you can't find the support from, one of us guys will be more trying to help, the users out there. I think that's one key that I do find. It's more of the people that scroll through the community or scroll through the knowledge base and they can't find something and they put something on there and then the experts will then pick it up and say, you can either link to a reference or whatever on the knowledge base. I think that's one key thing, is don't be shy if you're a new user who's into your base. Be sure that, we're here to, we've probably experienced the problems that you already had with Intuiface. So I think, for the growth of the community, I think that is key. It's not shy.
That's your point. We're going to have to find a way to make people not to be shy, right?
Champagne.
Thanks. I agree with Tosolini. I think the community has not to be only in the community website. Facebook is one, Instagram. There are a lot of communities, but what I think is, I don't know how, but probably integrate all of those, not only one, so you can get the notifications. I am the same. I get the email that, hey, what's new? And I just make a fast reading of what's new, something that are really interesting, some not so much. But I'm not always there. I am in other places, so it would be good if you can have access via different platforms to be informed. And for me, I repeat, it's been really helpful whenever you get the real value of the community when you have a deep problem that you have to solve tonight for having been run tomorrow morning AM, and you just know where to fix a problem, and I've done it a lot of times. So I just go to the community, read a lot of things, and probably I don't find the exact solution, but just looking what someone else did gives you the solution, so you can, oh yes, I just make this with that, and you run it.
I wrote a few down before we came here, but the one I didn't write down that I think Paolo hit right on the head was, I think, well, it does take a lot of time to help others, to post and show work and show how to create things and to teach. And I really think there should be some sort of incentive. I mean, not monetary or anything like that, but also for it to help others contribute. If you're going to foster engagement among people, you want them to have some sort of, even just some little incentive, some little something to make them realize, all right, it will be worth an hour if I put it into, just type it all up and make it presentable for others. Classes I have put down, which I think the Intuiface Academy, which is, I assume, some sort of a training program to help people get up to speed. You can easily see what all the other major design platforms do and take some notes from them, because they did foster generations ahead. And I think if Intuiface is going to be multi-platform across every device, VR and AR, you're going to need a lot of teaching. It's tons of it. And you won't be able to handle all of it, so there has to be some structure of having others teach them how to do it if you become an expert in that niche. That's a huge one. Webinars as well. You guys do great webinars. Jeff does awesome teaching webinars as well. You guys do great ways to show how to do things. You can open those up to your experts as well. Even not to showcase a project, but maybe how you did something. And have us lead it or something. I'm sure we're more than happy. Again, that's a trade-off. An incentive is us to trade a little bit of exposure to maybe show how a complex thing is done. And then it saves a little bit of work on your part too. I think that's pretty big. You should always be reflecting everything that you do. As a software company, you build something, you reflect it to the community, you make something, you reflect it out. And then the last thing is keeping us in the loop. I come from tech forums, like I said, of previous types of software platforms where we're so used to being in the loop on all the roadmaps. And this is the first time I've seen what Intuiface is working on. And if you think about us as developers from our point of view, sometimes opportunities are there that we don't know, that we could start on early. So for platforms that you can have where you can actually vote on ideas would be huge. And at least that would give you an example of seeing what's important to the community. You can just mark them as under consideration or something planned for later use, but at least we know that they're on your radar. And maybe it's something we won't turn away at customers saying, hey, the software is not capable of that, when it's actually on your roadmap. That's something that I think you can capture a lot more and increase engagement at the same time. I think that's it.
Great points. Let me steal your ideas just a little more. It's really to ask you to do my job. When you mentioned incentives, and we obviously thought of incentives idea, we thought of some forms of material incentives, but it just doesn't feel right. So what other ideas do you have? Like what forms of incentives
I like the Intuiface t-shirt personally.
material incentives.
Well, incentives are more than monetary. They're ways to, again, as a business owner, you guys have exposure. You are being sought out now on the web. People are finding you, and I've gotten calls saying, hey, we looked up on Intuiface, and that's how we found you as an expert. So you do have something to trade, and exposure can be traded in thousands of different ways. You should find ways to work that out, and I think that's a respectable way to do it without devaluing others as well.
All right. We have some work to do.